this is going to be just a brief conversation because there was something I forgot to mention in my video about Isaiah, introducing Isaiah. And that is, it says in 2 Chronicles, chapter 26, near the end there, at the death of Uzziah. Let's read this again briefly. Verse 22. Now the rest of the acts of Uzziah, first and last, did Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz, write. Now I mentioned that this is our first reference to to Isaiah in the Bible. But I forgot to mention that it says that he wrote the acts of Uzziah. He wrote kind of a history of the reign of Uzziah. But that's not contained in the book of Isaiah that we have. It is not contained, the book of Chronicles clearly used that as source material. But it is not within the book of Isaiah that we currently have. Which means, I find this fascinating, that Isaiah wrote more than what we have. What we have is the book of his prophesying. Although it does contain some historical narrative, especially with Ahaz and later with Hezekiah. But clearly he wrote a lot of history, of inspired history, much like Mormon in the Book of Mormon. He wrote a record of the kings. This also gives a little bit more credence to the idea that he is relative of the kings, that he is the cousin of Uzziah, and that he is the court scribe. He is writing down all the works of of Uzziah. He's writing down all the works of Uzziah because he is cousin and appointed scribe to Uzziah. Now, in Uzziah's later life, he is then called to be a prophet. And we'll see this in I can't remember what chapter it's in, but Isaiah does talk about this, how he was in his study and he heard the voice of the Lord asking, who will I send? And he volunteers to go. And God says, well, be careful, because when you go, you're going to be persecuted for this. And Isaiah says, that's okay, I understand, I still volunteer. Now, if he's a scribe to the court and he's the one writing all the histories, he is intimately familiar with what's going on, not only in court, but in the nation, because he is the court, he's like the court historian, court scribe. And so this calling would make a lot of sense. God calls him because he's a righteous man, obviously, but he's also intimately connected and familiar with what's going on. So I just want to mention this, that it's another one of those lost scriptures that I would love to get my hands on someday. We have all these books of other prophets that, the visions of Iddo the seer, the prophecy of Ahijah, the sayings of the seers. We have the book of Nathan the prophet. All those ones, we don't have any writings from Nathan. We're told that he did write, but we don't have anything. Same thing with Iddo the seer and Ahijah the prophet and Samuel. We don't have any of their writings. But Isaiah is a guy that we have some of his writings, but we are told there are more of his writings, that there were more. I'd love to get them. On a final note with Isaiah in this little follow-up, there are a lot of Joseph Smith translations in this. A lot of these. The chapters 2 through 6 have significant and several changes. It's like, half or more of each chapter has been corrected in general. Some later chapters have significant changes that restore portions that were revealed in the Book of Mormon. And that's a lot of the early chapters are like this. Some of the later chapters still have, just flipping through this book, I would say 2/3 of the chapters of Isaiah have Joseph Smith translations, and of those, at least half are significantly changed. So when I do the readings of the chapters, for those that have the Joseph Smith translations, there's just too many of them to pause after each verse, like I've been doing recently. I'm going to have to go back to my old format of read the chapter, talk about it, and then go back and read the Joseph Smith translation. Because other than the book of Genesis, the book of Isaiah has the most Joseph Smith translation corrections of any book in the Old Testament. It's going to make it a little bit longer to get through these videos. For Isaiah will likely be 10 to 15 minutes long instead of these short 3 to 5 minutes that I've been averaging reading in Kings and Chronicles. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that as well. Anyways, this is just a little follow-up to my introduction that I wanted to quickly do before moving into the chapters. So I will see you there.